favorite girl, April Watts, and I want to welcome you to Ego. It's called Everybody's Got One. It's a podcast about opinions. I've got mine, you've got yours, and my amazing panelists, they have theirs. I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves because I believe that people speak for themselves. Joining me in studio, we have the beautiful Miss Elle.
Hello, I'm Elle. Don't really have anything notable to say. I'm just glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Glad to have you. And we have CJ Avent.
That's me, your favorite author, your favorite mentor, your favorite educator.
All right. And my girl via Zoom, Miss Nicole Winfield. What up, Angie?
Hello. Happy to be here.
We are so happy to have you, and we have to get your sound situation fixed because you are going in and out for some reason. So we are going to work on that. And last but certainly not least, my dude. I call him the flyest dressed comedian ever, and he is a really funny and intelligent guy. Bo, last name Dacious. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, no problem. Thank you for having me.
All right, so we are going to get into today's topic. Today's topic is colorism versus preference. And right now, with what's going on in the world with race and then the subset of it being colorism in the African American community, if you spend any time on social media, okay, you've seen the memes, you've seen all the discussion, people mad at J-Lo, you're mad at Cardi B. It's a whole lot going on right now, so we're going to talk about it, but we also want you to be a part of the conversation. You can join us by calling 410-822-3733. That's 410-822-FREE, F-R-E-E. I'm the kind of person that likes to start with working definitions because what I found as a communicator is that a lot of times people are like having full-on conversations. They're arguing, they're disagreeing, or they're agreeing, but not realizing that they're not even operating with the same definitions.
Yep.
So if anybody on the panel wants to jump in, how do you define colorism and preference? Anybody want to go first?
Yeah. Let me start that. So when I look at the word colorism, what stands out to me is ism, right?
Ism.
Racism. They kind of go hand in hand to me. And when you look at the definition of it, what is it? The first thing it says, prejudice and discrimination, right? So that alone, it already it's coming off the bat with a negative connotation. So,
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Well, I mean, colorism isn't positive.
Right.
It's nothing but negative. It's discriminating against someone because they have darker skin, so that's never good.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody want to talk about
Definitely. Yeah, I echo that. Yeah, it's definitely going against someone right off the bat. Anything is a schism. I didn't know I was going to be up here being intelligent. I thought I was just up here being funny.
You really both at the same damn time.
You up there asking intelligent questions and shit. Like I'm just like, I'm lost already right off the bat.
You can be both at the same damn time, which every great comedian is, which is why I have you on the show. Okay, so I want to talk about preference because there seems to be a fine line between colorism and then preference. How would you define preference?
How's my sound now?
Liking one thing
a
over
little
another.
bit better.
A little bit better. How about now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll just jump straight in with preference. Like you said, it's a fine line, but preference is about making one choice about likability over another. And so with colorism, like the other panelists said, it is strictly negative. It is 100% bad. It is 100% terrible. So when we talk about having one preference for another human over another one, that makes it the same thing. It's not like Coke or Pepsi or chicken over steak. We're talking about human beings. We're talking about emotions. We're talking about real people. So when you say preference, it makes you feel like it is an inanimate object when it's not.
Okay.
Or perhaps it's something they can control.
Go ahead,
we
Bo.
can't control our skin color, so
Right.
it's a little bit different than
And the
saying
reality
like I
is
prefer pizza to like a burger.
But the reality is human beings are visual.
Right.
And there's psychology behind everything we do. It's psychology behind why I like the color green. It's psychology behind why I like heels versus flats. It's psychology behind why I prefer to wear a skirt over pants. It's psychology behind everything. And for me, where preference comes in is preference doesn't always have to be rooted in a negative psychology.
Right.
Whereas I think colorism is rooted in a negative psychology. You were going to say something, though, Bo, and we kind of cut you off.
That's fine. I think preference is just off the top, taking a liking to something over something else. And that could be a temporary thing, especially when you have a preference early on in life. They change as you get older, as you mature, as you become open to new ideas of new things. When I was young, I had a preference of a certain body type on a woman, or a perfect color for me. But as you get older, you find out some of those preferences that you have aren't necessarily good for you. And you tend to gravitate toward things that you have a preference to, but you might learn that it's not good for you in the end. So preferences can definitely change. Colorisms, you may have a more difficult time changing your idea of those.
Yeah,
But some people never grow. Some people never grow out of those childhood preferences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some people
So
never
just
do.
because you get older, that doesn't mean that your psychology also matures. There's a lot of immature adults that exist in this world. And I think that part of colorism and why it's so dangerous is because it's an unwillingness to mature. It's an unwillingness to grow. It's an unwillingness to see people as individuals and not pizza and chicken and heels and grass. Like, that's a different thing. It's disregarding someone based on things that they can't control.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's colorism versus, I believe, preference is a little bigger than that. Preference may be like, for example, I have a preference for dark-skinned men, and I understand exactly why I have that preference, because my model of what the ultimate man is was my grandfather. He's passed on, but he was dark-skinned. He was built like John Henry. He took care of his family. He didn't play. He was bald-headed. So I know until this day, I have an affinity, which is also a preference. I don't really care about semantics.
Yeah.
I have an unabashed preference for bald-headed, dark-skinned men, because my first positive experience with a man was my grandfather, because in my family, my mother said to me, black is beautiful and you are beautiful. And in my mother's family, it's mainly dark-skinned people. So when I look, because I took everything, because my mama's word was bond. So what she said was the truth. So everything I saw around me was dark skin. So it was beautiful. Now, at the same time, I don't limit myself. I don't discriminate. I appreciate the spectrum of beauty. I love me some men, okay? My fiance, well, both of my fiancés, that's a whole other story. They were both very light-skinned men, because I don't limit myself. So I don't see anything problematic with preference, and I really don't even think that it's objectifying people as pizza or shoes or heels. We are human beings, and just by nature, human beings categorize everything. Like the reason we have marketing is because for people to purchase things, they need it to be in a category. The reason, and sometimes it becomes negative,
right?
Because it becomes putting people in a box and stifling people or what have you, like with sexuality and stuff of that nature. But you like what you like, and sometimes I believe that when people say that they don't have a preference, I think that they're not being honest. I think that if you look throughout your history of people, you have people are trying to be politically correct, but by human nature, we choose, and we have psychology behind why we choose, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it as long as you don't exclude anybody else. What are y'all thinking?
Exclude or put down, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I think that it's just as colorist for you to have a affinity for dark-skinned men as it is for men to have an affinity for light-skinned women. It's still colorist.
I don't think it's colorist, because colorist is excluding. And affinity
Exactly.
is when I open my eyes and when I think beauty, when I think handsome because of my experiences. I come from a dark-skinned family. That's not colorist. Versus me saying, I'm not going to date a light-skinned guy. That's colorist. That's exclusion, which I don't do. I've dated white men. I've dated dark men. I've dated brown men. I've dated light men. I've dated Asians. So I don't think it's exclusion. And to me, colorism is ranking things in a hierarchy.
Sexual? Is it just the sexual attraction that you have?
I don't know. I don't think that is sexual because I wasn't having sex with my grandfather. So I don't think it's sexual.
If as an adult, we, like Bo said, we have things that we are taught and we learn and we grow from. And so I feel like if you are more physically attracted to a certain type of man, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But that also doesn't mean that there isn't a little hint of colorism in there. Because
I don't see the colorism.
Well, I mean, I think psychologically speaking, we are naturally attracted to people who look like us, and also people that you, like you said, your family. So it's like a lot of the time they say your mate ends up looking like you or
like
whatever.
your dad or something.
Oh my gosh, like people say that my partner and I look the same all the time. They ask if we're brothers. No, we don't.
Because I stalk you on Facebook. Yes, y'all do.
We really don't. I swear we don't. Okay. We're just around each other a lot. But I think that when you vibe with someone like that, you end up looking like them. So when it looks like you, I think that's different than branching out and purposely preferring another type of person that isn't where you come from and that doesn't look like you. Because it's like you kind of, if you feel like you're doing right and you have that feeling of love in your heart for, you know, that sort, like you said, your grandfather. So I think that's a little bit different than just looking at a dark-skinned man who's bald and not having a positive figure in your life and then just saying like, yes, that's it. That's the preference.
Exactly.
Because that gets a little weird. But when you have like that positivity, I think it's different.
Okay, so I do want to get to like what Merriam-Webster and Oxford Dictionary says, which is ironic because these are white people telling us what colorism is. But
well, they're the ones who came up with it. So
it is. They created it, so they should be able to define it. All right, so according to Merriam-Webster, colorism is prejudice or discrimination, especially within a racial or ethnic group, favoring people with lighter skin over those with darker skin. And the Oxford English Dictionary says that colorism is prejudice or discrimination against individuals with a dark skin tone, typically among people of the same ethnic or racial group. Okay, so both of these are saying that colorism is basically discriminating against people of a darker complexion or a darker hue, should I say, right? So, with that being said, do you believe that light-skinned people can be victims of colorism? Because light-skinned people do have their struggles.
Can I speak first on this?
Please speak first, Bo.
Right out the gate, because I am deeply rooted in colorism and preference. All right, first of all, my mother was an extremely white woman.
An extremely white woman. Break it down.
Oh, yeah. She wasn't just a white girl. She was an extremely white woman. But she only dated dark-skinned men. She only dated brothers. Okay? My father was the epitome of just black and purple mix. And that's all, yes, that's all she ever liked. That's all she ever desired. And I heard her growing up countless times say she would never date a red nigga. She would always say that. So naturally, I was attracted to dark-skinned women growing up. That became my preference. But as I got older, I decided that I couldn't keep myself in a box and date one particular type of woman.
Exactly.
Because up until that time, it hadn't worked out. So I am open to the idea of dating. I mean, the woman I'm dating now is light skinned.
Okay.
So I would never keep. But here's some colorism. I still would never date a white woman.
But your mama white.
And
What's that about?
Don't tell his mom.
All right, we want to invite you to participate in the conversation. Please feel free to call at 410-822 3733. So I also want to hear from some of the other panelists about the question: do you believe that light-skinned people can be victims of colorism as well, or is it called something else?
Light-skinned brothers, yeah. Because I mean, think about all the jokes, right? Stop acting light-skinned. It's like there's this stereotype that light-skinned men are soft,
yes.
right? And that the darker brother
Which is
the
not
stronger
true.
brother. You know,
You got a dark-skinned soul, bro. You got a dark-skinned soul.
I'm glad you know that, April. You know what? I've never been tried like that. Like
Ain't nobody gonna try you because your energy doesn't.
And to give off that I'll be sure Christopher Williams vibe. Like I used to be teased that I looked like one, but people that knew me knew damn well that I wasn't one of those type dudes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But that's what I think it is. I think, like, for the brother, yeah, it's definitely a negative connotation there, but not for women, because there's always this goal to get you a light-skinned woman. You know, not that there's anything wrong with that.
No,
Okay,
I just don't agree with you because
yeah.
I don't think reverse colorism exists.
Okay.
I think it's resentment from colorism
and rooted in something else.
Yeah, rooted in that,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
it is like it's like a backlash, and there can be discrimination and there can be prejudice, but I don't think it's the same thing as colorism because it doesn't have it doesn't have that inner working thing like with colorism. You know, that can affect people's jobs. Like we're just not talking about like who you're gonna sleep with.
Oh yeah.
And I've never been told, you know, like I was too dark skinned to be anywhere in any space, and I've never been told that I was too light skinned to be in any space either. I've been told I was too black to be in certain spaces, but that's different. That's not colorism. And so I do think that there's a negativity that is there, but it's not on the same plane. Like I wouldn't call it colorism at all.
Do you think that the impact is just as strong as colorism is on dark-skinned people? Because I know some light-skinned people that's pretty messed up.
I think
biracial people.
I think it depends on the person, and I think it depends on, you know, exactly what happened to them and how they took it. But overall, if you're talking about the systemic nature of it, I don't think that it's the same thing.
Okay.
I think I don't want to downplay anyone's experience, but I don't think that it's like rooted in the same thing. So I don't think we should really like call it the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to compare. I don't do oppression Olympics.
I'm with it. It's the same way as like people say that black people can't be racist, and based on what the technical definition of racism is, I don't believe black people can be racist either. I believe black people can be prejudiced.
Yeah.
I believe they can be bigoted.
Yep.
And I hear a television. Can we turn the television down in somebody's room?
No, man.
I'm hearing something.
I hear it too.
It's somebody on Zoom. Now I don't hear it anymore.
My house is really silent.
Okay.
I don't know who coming from.
All right, so I want to.
But based on the definition of colorism, right, is that's saying that black people can be colorists.
Right.
Right? Because and look what it points to. It points to the darker hue,
yes.
Right? And again, it's almost like, what is that rooted in? Root is that's the root word for the day. What is this rooted in?
What is it rooted in?
You know, like we already know who wrote the definitions, and if you think back to why the definition was written, because there was always this favoring for if we're going to merge with white people, you know, with black people, we prefer the lighter ones because, you know, and I'm talking about like a dialogue amongst white people,
because
right?
they seem less threatening.
Yes,
in
yeah.
their
Proximity
perception
to whiteness.
Proximity to whiteness, exactly.
So for them, you know, but the darker hue is the threat or only good for labor, hard labor,
or just sex,
or
not
sex.
love.
You know what I mean? But going back to root, like, so for you, it was your grandfather who left a positive impact, right? So that positive. Because
he was a
impact,
man's man.
See, and that so that told you a man's man looks like this or does this, and it's not to say that you excluded, because there could have been a light-skinned brother that was doing the exact same thing, being that same positive type brother.
But he wasn't my granddaddy, and I wasn't close to him. Like that wasn't the example that I saw. So
right. So I could see what you had as a preference, Because it's not like you was like, light skin, nah, that ain't my thing.
But I'm not
you know?
moved by my preference. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm an energy person. I love spirits. I love swag. You know what I'm saying? Because like, okay, my granddaddy, he was dark, but my daddy, he had all the swag. So I like a man with swag that dressed a certain way.
Yeah.
And maybe that's prejudice in some sort of way, but it's still my preference, you know?
Yeah, and that's, like for me, I've dated, well, first of all, my wife is brown skin, just like me.
Yes, she is.
You know, hey, baby. But no, my wife is brown skin. So, you know, but I've dated light, I've dated darker than me, I've dated white, you know, and but for me, it was never, that never crossed my mind to like, oh no, I only have to be this particular shade. You know, I really don't like the whole notion of, you know, we do this because we're gonna make cute babies. You know, like that's
I
don't like that
hair.
one.
Like really?
Yeah,
That's what we're doing?
I can't stand that.
That chased me down the street in Vegas to say that to me before.
As much as we say that we don't want these things and we don't like these things and we're not like that, we cannot ignore the fact that it's happening.
It does.
We have not eradicated the paper bag test from the psyche. We have not eradicated the male nigger from the house nigger.
I agree.
We have not eradicated good hair from being a preference. We have not eradicated certain ethnic views of ourselves from the way that we think. So like on this panel, I love the fact that everyone is liberated in their thinking and liberated in the way that they live their lives. But this is just like a small segment of society where the larger segment of society is still the fuckery. I mean, you can go on TikTok right now and pull up 100 videos where there are middle school boys, high school boys, college boys, grown adults who loudly and proudly say, I don't fuck with black girls.
50 Cent and Lil Wayne, come on.
Yeah.
We have huge examples of that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And it is still happening. I mean, I can name at least 5 men that I have in my life who have I heard verbally say that my preference is dark skin and I want to have a dark skin wife and black is beautiful and all the colloquialism. But when it's time to choose their life partners, that person does not look like the person that they describe.
Okay, well, I can fit in that category too, because my preference is wholeheartedly dark-skinned men. But I'm gonna love who I love, and I'm gonna be unapologetic about it. And like I said, actually, I've had 3 fiancés. One was for 24 hours. That's a whole nother story. But every single fiancé, what you say, Bo? I know. It's a whole nother story though, and it's not as bad as it sounds. But every single fiance that I have ever had, every man that has ever just like seen me and wanted to take me 100% seriously and wanted to love me wholeheartedly for everything that I am has been a light-skinned man. And beyond complexion, beyond my politics, beyond all of that, more than anything, because of how I feel about myself, I want to be loved holistically. I want to be treated well, and I want to be with a person who sees me as more than just a sexual object. And those connections and those vibes just so happen to come from light-skinned men. So do I sit back and wait so I can make a political statement so I can be with a dark dude? You know, like, nah.
But were you their preference? Did they have a preference for women who are complex?
I don't know, because I never asked them.
Why
Some
not?
of them will express it.
Why?
They'll just like flat out say it.
When you loving a
It's
person
weird.
though, like why?
But
why
you don't
kinda
fall
ask?
in love when you meet someone, you fall in love over time.
It depends. Me, I be knowing.
See,
I be like, yo.
I was a
Now they got a
victim.
girl on me.
I was a victim as a younger man growing up. A lot of women that wanted to harness my light skin, curly hair, dimples, and wanted to keep me around and make a baby or whatever. And meanwhile, my friends, my less attractive friends, just got to hit it and do whatever they want. But they wanted to keep me around. See, so I had to convince them. I'm like, hey, I ain't shit either. You know, like, I just want to hear it. I ain't trying to be hanging around.
And on that note, we are going to take a break. We're going to hear from our sponsors like Safari Nightclub and the Baltimore Comedy Factory. The Baltimore Comedy Factory is opening up October 31st with my man Bill Bellamy. It's going to be nuts. And we are opening up also downstairs at Safari on October 31st with a fight party, Halloween party. I'll be on that mic. We got DJ Biscuit and Techniques on the wheels. It's going to be nuts. But as you know, because of COVID, seating is limited. So make sure you get your tickets in advance and all that great stuff. And we're going to hear from BC and Apparel too. We'll be right back. Intelligent and articulate people. We have my girl Elle Dennis. We have Carlos Avent, CJ, and via Zoom we have my girl Nicole Winfield, and comedian and just altogether fly guy, my man Bo, last name Dacious. Again, we are talking about colorism versus preference. And you know what? The conversation is just flowing so naturally. I haven't gotten to any of my questions. So I do. You said what? Right.
That's so true.
Right. But I do want to get to some of these questions for those on the panel who are darker skinned, who could be affected by colorism. Has colorism impacted your life or affected your self-esteem? And if so, how?
Self-esteem, yeah, definitely self-esteem. You know, I grew up in the late 90s, college in the early 2000s, and that was during that era where it was like light skin is in.
Yes.
In a way, you know?
Yes.
So it's like if you ain't look like Kid or Albie Shore or one of them, you know, it's like you were ugly, you know, or you needed to do a little extra to get Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you need to, you need to take your shirt off like LL or something. But that's what, and that for me, and on top of that, I was skinny with a big old bush. So I didn't have a whole lot working for me. All right. So during that time, it did hit my self-esteem, because it was like, man, if I was, because I went to Morgan State, and I swear to you, almost every Kappa was light skinned with curly hair. Just one particular year.
Yeah.
And the way that they doing their thing down, on the yard, and it's like girls just falling all over the grass for them and everything, and I'm just like, what I gotta do? What I gotta do? I want her to follow me. What I gotta do? So yeah, it's self-esteem, definite. Especially, like I said, that late teens, early 20s. Yeah.
What about you, Angie?
I feel like my story is a little bit unique in the way that I grew up in a family where there was a lot of spectrum. From my mom, dad, uncle, brother's sister, and so I did not even know that it was bad to be dark skinned until I got to high school. I never experienced it. I don't have any memories of being mistreated or treated poorly or badly because of it. I grew up in a family with really strong Black beautiful women, always enforced it, and reassured me that being smart and efficient and articulate was the most important value for a woman to have, and not so much trying to desire it. Because as you know now, men will fuck anybody. So it doesn't matter because being desirable for men is like, all you gotta do is lay out on purpose like the boy said. You don't have to do anything to be attractive to men. And then throughout high school, I did feel that there was a preferential thing going on.
Can you move closer to your laptop?
Yeah.
You got a pretty face, so it don't matter. Just move that pretty dark face onto the close to the laptop.
You know, I wasn't really boy crazy or like shooting boys, so that thing kind of passed really quickly. And then the crazy thing was when I moved to DC in the early 2000s, I just remember again going crazy in a way that I had never experienced in the South.
It's a regional thing too.
People would like stop me up the street, like women, men, everybody, and so it really was kind of a coming of age for me moving to Chocolate City because my time and my experience, I was just one other girl.
Where are you from?
I am from the Gulf South. I'm from Louisiana. I'm from Baton Rouge.
Okay.
Color is a big deal here, maybe because of Confederate slave state, maybe because it still have plantations, still have, I don't know why, but here it's definitely a huge thing, more so than I experienced when I moved to as a teenager.
For me, it's weird because, like I said, most of my family experience was from my mom's side.
Right.
And even though we have my family is so mixed. I have everything in my family, but the majority of my family is, when I say black, I mean nighttime, dark-skinned, beautiful, beautiful people. But I also have some cousins who are like second, third cousins who look white almost. They're very light. They have blue eyes. They have like long, fine hair, all that stuff. But we never had the colorism thing in my family. Everybody was just everybody. You can get joned on, you can get cracked on any day for any reason. It did not matter. So I didn't understand colorism from that angle. Also, I was one of the lighter people in my family. So I thought I was kind of light-skinned a little bit because of my experience of being in my family.
Yeah.
And then growing up in DC, where there's a more of a consciousness, I was considered brown-skinned. I didn't realize I was considered dark-skinned anywhere until I went to college in California. And when I got out there, it was like, you find it shit to be a dark-skinned girl. And I was like, who dark? Who dark-skinned? I didn't know, even though I would not mind being dark-skinned because I always wanted to be darker because the people in my family were dark. And I was like, damn, grandma don't got no wrinkles. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's about 70 and she doesn't have any wrinkles. So I never had anything impact my self-esteem. Like, as a matter of fact, like, I kind of thought I was the shit. And when I went to California, which is kind of like color struck, my girlfriends were like, how are you dark with dreadlocks and you pulling dudes? Like, I was pulling them left and right, but I think it was more of how I felt about myself. And so they were like, what is it about her? I got to see what she think is so bomb. You know what I'm saying? So I really don't have that experience personally, but because I'm an observer of life and the world, just seeing how it impacts other people, it bothers me a whole lot. It really, truly bothers me.
I think I was affected a little bit differently because, you know, being raised in the hood, you know, family very poor, but, you know, I think I was one of the first mixed kids ever. So, I was made to know early on that I looked different. So, and that wasn't necessarily a good thing because, you know, it was always, oh, girl, he got curly hair, he got dimples. And I sort of got self-conscious about that, you know, in my teens because I started wearing hats and once I started growing facial hair, I covered my dimples because I didn't want it to be all about that with me. And I'm a realist. I know that looks don't last forever. I just wanted someone to fuck with me because I'm dope.
Right.
I'm just like, if you knew what type of dude I was and what I'm capable of becoming, you will be fucking with me on that level and wouldn't even be worried about how I look.
All right, so I want to get back to preference.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone on the panel ever had a preference? If so, what was it? And do you currently have a preference? We already know what mine was.
Like any preference?
Complexion preference, since that's what we're talking about. No? Okay.
Complexion preference? Nah. Never really. It never really crossed my mind to be like favor one over the other.
Okay.
Because for me, it's like Jay-Z. I love girls.
Girls. I ain't mad at you.
I didn't care.
What about, well, Bo already said that he used to have a dark skin preference, right?
Up until about 4 years ago.
Okay.
It's all I would do. It's all I desired. But, you know, you take a look around when you get in your 40s, you're like, this shit ain't working out. maybe I should explore other options.
Right. Have you ever had a complexion preference, Angie?
I have not. I can honestly say that I have not. But I will say that most of the men that I've been with and most of the men that I've dated have been of a mixed race.
Okay.
With the exception of my son's father, who is Nigerian.
Okay.
And that had nothing to do with color for me. It was more about having shared values and a shared vision and chemistry and all of the things that you really know when you grow up and you've grown are important. I don't think that it would be fair to say that, you know, anybody can go at me or anyone can come up to me. I have a preference for very attractive men. I like men to look good. No average Joe. If you're not buff, if you don't go to the gym, you look right, you have teeth, I'm just not interested.
Did you say all of your teeth?
No,
She's just like, listen up. Like,
cares about their body in general. Because if you don't care about your body, you can't care about me.
But then you got people talking about body shaming. And it's like, you want to make me be attracted to obesity, and that's something that I'm not attracted to because, once again, the psychology around it, and it's a whole nother psychology from my family, whom I love.
I'm with a little meat. I'm talking about someone who does not take care of them.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? There's a difference between, like, you know, I want 6 foot 2 between 200 and 230. I'm not saying anything silly like that. I'm talking about a person who has an overall positive,
Just care about themselves,
their body. It, no matter what form it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like Belle said, I'm in my 40s, so I know I'm gonna give me a little belly. It's just part of the deal now.
I like bellies. I'm sorry. I don't mean to go on a tangent, but I like bellies. Once again, everything for me is psychological. And so when I think of a man that's extremely buffed or whatever, unless that is your business, unless that's your business, I'm looking at him like, he ain't got no money. Because he has too much time to be in the gym. Whereas a man that has a man build, you know, he has his muscles, he's fit, but he got a little bit of a belly, you eating good. You have the money to eat. Look at Jason rubbing his belly. My technical director is rubbing his belly. But and you don't have a whole lot of time to spend too much time to be vain in the gym working on a six pack. It's something about a belly that's just comforting to me. I don't know. I don't know.
Now, but that's preference. The way I see that,
that's preference, right? I'm not saying I wouldn't date a dude with a six pack, but the belly is something about that just does something for me.
So like for me, I've always had this preference of my woman has to be my height or shorter.
Okay.
Because with taller women, I've never dated a taller woman because to me it's intimidating. And it's not her fault.
But you're honest,
right? You know, and it's not her. It's not. It would not be her fault. It's just for me. I'm like. There's this. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. But
you want family. You want to be with someone that you can tower over so you can feel more masculine.
Maybe that's it. Maybe maybe that's it.
And the fact that you're honest about that,
Yeah.
I respect that because I appreciate honest conversation. Now I want to bring it back to the colorism thing. Okay, so most people colorism is something that is seen as an intra-racial issue between black and brown people, right?
Yeah.
But Bo mentioned something about his white mother who only wanted to date really dark dudes, right? So, okay, how do you feel about white people that only want to date black people of a certain complexion? Is that colorism? Is that fetishism? Is that just a preference? What is it?
Fetishism.
It could be either. It could be all. But all I know is my mother only preferred dark-skinned men, but my mother never had a good man.
Wow.
The men she dated, including my father, God rest his soul, none of them was shit.
That honest conversation, man.
None of them did nothing good for my mother. My mother struggled her entire life. So her choice and preference in men did not mean shit.
So do you think it was fetishism because of like everything that's associated with the big black buck and the sexual prowess and the big dick and all of that stuff?
It could have been that, but I just honestly feel like that's what she liked.
Okay.
That's just what she liked. Like we could be out somewhere, even when I was as an adult, being out with my mother, the men that she would look at were just dark and unattractive. But that's what she liked. She liked jail niggas, dark skin, cornrows, long fingernails, just dirty, rot gut ass niggas.
Did she see it as a challenge? Like I can fix him up. I can clean him up.
But that's what liked her. So it was a marriage made in heaven.
On that note, we do have a phone call, so we don't have a phone call? Okay, so we had a call, but the call dropped. Caller, if you're still watching, you can call us back at 410-822-3733. Did you want to say something, Angie? Because I saw you look like you were about to say something.
I was just thinking emotionally whoever called back. But when he was saying that there was a preference around skin color, I think that within our own race, we can also feel the same way about dark-skinned men. They're more masculine. They can keep us safe. They can fight. They can take care of things. They can take care of shit. And I think that if we really look at it, the colorism that exists in all races, Indian matchmaking that's on Netflix now, and it's really, really about this Indian matchmaker who matches Indian couples. And each of the men on the show have a preference for light Indian women.
Well, that caste system in India is like
Colorism is
not a
dominant.
joke. Colorism is like the dark people in India are considered to be untouchables. So like that's not a joke.
Same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like even in South America and in Latin America, it's the same thing. The closer you are to white, the better.
I think it's globally. I mean, over in
anti-black
Africa, you got dark, like black people bleaching their skin, like dying because of their bleaching their skin. But we do have a caller who's called back now. We're going to go to the phones. Hello? Hi, caller. Okay, we're going to try this one more time. Hello, caller. Are you there, caller? We're going to keep this conversation going then. So we talked about colorism globally and all of that. I do want to talk about where the world is headed. Because right now, racism is king in the worst kind of way, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is, all over the world, people are intermixing. Miscegenation is real. And what's happening, and of course it's going to take a long time, but at some point, race is almost going to become defunct because people, because everybody's going to be racially ambiguous. So my question is, do you believe that the colorism is going to be the new racism as racism becomes less relevant?
I don't know, because I think that a lot of people won't even admit to colorism, whether you've experienced it firsthand or not. Like, I've been in a position where if I say that I think colorism exists, someone tells me that I'm only saying that because then it makes me feel like I'm better than another person as a light-skinned person, which is like, but I'm like, wait, hold on, I'm on your side. Like, what? I don't understand. Like, I was trying to be like an ally there, but okay. But so, I mean, if people can't even admit to it, I don't really know how we're going to really progress and be able to address it as even within the Black community. And if we're talking about globally, I don't even know how that can happen, because it's still so widely accepted. Like, people think it's okay. If people think that colorism is as simple as a preference, then what do you do to get rid of that? Because it's still wrong.
Let's talk solutions.
But why? Well, how come it's only us? When I say us, I'm talking about Black folk. It's only us that do this. And I could be wrong, and I'm okay with being wrong. But I've never heard of a white person being prejudiced against a darker white person. Because don't they usually lean towards
salon, so.
Right? They want to get tan, right? like that's what they do.
But you got to look at it too. Okay, so wait, do we really have a caller? All right, we're going to go to the call right now.
Like,
I'm here.
Oh, you're a loud and clear caller. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing? This is Kendall Seegers. I just wanted to chime in real quick.
Please
Good
do.
buddy of Angie, shouts to Cheeky Star Nova. You can all hear me fine, correct?
Yes. Go right ahead.
Cool. Okay, first thing I want to hop on. Little background on me. Super smoky, dark skin, chocolate dude. Son of two brown skin parents, but my mother's mother was half white. My grandfather, my mother's side, was like he's from the Congo. So that has always been a part of the mix. That side of the family's from the South. I grew up in New York, 48, so it was definitely, I'm light skinned, I live in Queens, I go to St. John's University, you feel me?
Yes.
And we weren't popping at a certain point. First thing I want to talk about is preference. There is absolutely no way that Black people can say that their preference is not informed by the 400 years of slavery and colorism that we've experienced. Now, if in fact your preference is somewhat based on height or different things, I can more so see that. But to say that our preference is strictly maybe an attraction, it's absolutely almost impossible for it to not have been informed by all the things that we have been imputed. I mean, growing up, literally, I was taught by the cats in the hood that the light-skinned honeys had the best sex, that smelled the best. Where they got this from, God only knows, but I know this is what informed a lot of my choices. And on the other side, as a dark-skinned male, we got to develop this overly hypersexual, mandingo situation that made us seem more sexy, if you will. And to say that that is just a plain-out preference, I think ignores a whole lot of history, a whole lot of programming, and it is just a little bit an inconvenient truth.
But I also think it's a sweeping generalization to say that a person's preference is rooted in slavery.
I'll stop.
Okay, cool. I think that it is a swooping generalization to say that every complexion preference is rooted in slavery. Pardon my French, but I done had a lot of dick, okay? And I can tell you that the stereotype of a dark-skinned man having a bigger penis is not always true. The stereotype of a Black man having a bigger penis is not always true. So the more you experience, and I majored in social-cultural anthropology and Black studies, so I'm not coming from a place of ignorance, but I understand that I have a preference, and I understand the psychology of my preference. I am honest about that preference. I'm okay with that preference because I am not closed-minded. And I just think that it's really, really crazy to not know a person personally and say, you like light-skinned people because you color struck. Well, maybe they got a light-skinned mama and they love their mama, so they're generally and genuinely naturally gravitating towards light-skinned people, but that doesn't mean they think dark-skinned girls are ugly. And honestly, I just think we are living in a time of political correctness where everybody want to be so politically correct that you can't be honest with yourself. Most people have preferences. That's the way I feel. Whether they say it, whether they don't, most people have a preference.
Can I pose this?
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, I'll pose this. So let's flip it to the brothers that find themselves habitually dating white women. Would we say that that preference is what you described? It's simply just, hey, this is who they choose to fall in love with, who they like. Do we extend that same level of freedom of choice? Or do we look at those choices and generally suspect that there's something political, there's something racial, some type of fetishism, what have you, when it comes to that?
Couple things. I think Elle touched on it earlier when she was saying that when there is nothing in your background, nothing in your history that points to this phenotype, and you exclusively date this type of person, then there is some negative psychology there, which I agree with. Secondly, I think that we have to understand that there is a difference between looking at things from a sociological standpoint, looking at things from a general standpoint, and then looking at somebody's individual life and judging them. And I can't do that. I can't do that because listen, wait a minute. No. I have to finish my point, sir. The point that I am making is looking at society, looking at community, looking at general trends. I can make certain statements about colorism, about slave mentalities, about all of that. But when an individual whom I don't know decides to love a white woman, who the fuck am I to tell him how he feels and what is going on in his mind? Because at the end of the day, you love who you love, and love is personal for a whole lot of people. It does not have to be political. I can't put my mouth on somebody's individual situation because that's not my place. That is not my place. I can talk about trends. I can talk about looking at how like black men of a certain ilk, of a certain socioeconomic status tend to gravitate towards women that look a certain way. But when I'm looking at Carlos, and if Carlos got a white wife, I can't sit here and grit on him up and down and say, man, look at him, oh, sellout, because I don't know his situation. And I think that's where black people misstep and make mistakes sometimes. You can't put your mouth on somebody's individual situation because love is love.
It warrants a conversation, because what if you ended up marrying a white man, or if I ended up marrying a white man, and let's say like that was the first white man I'd ever dated. Obviously I don't have a preference for white man, that's the first one I ever dated, but let's say I just happened to fall in love with that one. If someone comes up to me and says, you know, you're married to a white man, you hate black men, and I've had men do that to me, tell me that I hate dark-skinned men just because they saw that, you know, my ex-boyfriend was white or light-skinned, and I was like, but that ain't got nothing to do with you.
Right.
Like, that was just him. And that's totally different.
And I just feel like I don't have to explain.
The assumption is that every relationship is rooted in love. You know that that's not true. Every relationship is not rooted in love.
Everyone is.
Every relationship isn't. Right.
Yep.
Every relationship is not rooted in love. Relationship is some attraction are rooted in sex. Some of them are rooted in mutual need. Some of them are rooted in housing.
Yeah.
There's a whole segment of homosexuals that exist in this world who literally seek out different women to use them for financial gain.
Yes.
To say that every relationship is based on love is just inaccurate.
But a person, first of all, I didn't say every relationship is rooted in love. I said it is not my place to judge a person's relationship. So whether it's rooted in love, whether it's rooted in sex, whether it's rooted in financial stability, it's none of my business. It's none of my business? Who are we to look at an individual couple and say you shouldn't be together, or this is about this is about that, when we don't know? We don't know.
I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just giving you a different point, because the point that you made was, who am I to look at who you fall in love with?
Who am I?
But you're assuming that these people are in love.
Who am I to look at who you fall in love with? Who am I to look at who you choose?
It's just
who
like
am I to
having a
look-
conversation.
Yeah.
You just can't, like, I can't tell a woman that she has a relaxer because she hates her natural hair.
Because she hates her natural hair.
Because I haven't had a conversation with her about it. Maybe after I,
That's that superiority complex. I can't
some
stand
opinions
that.
back and forth. Then perhaps I'm gonna like, ooh, man, I don't know about that. But
Right.
I can't say that without speaking to someone.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they don't owe you an explanation.
Exactly. Not at all.
They
Not at all.
don't.
Not at all.
I don't care. Like, we can speak about concepts, we can speak esoterically, but when you get down to somebody's individual relationship, they don't owe you nothing, because I'm not explaining nothing about mine. Nothing.
Yeah, ain't no point.
And we got a call. Hello, caller. How are you?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. What's your name?
Okay. My name is Rachel. And just so you know, I am not white. I'm black, and a lot of people get me mixed up when they hear me on the phone. So I had to just let you guys know there's not a white person calling the show talking about black people.
Well, there's no such thing as a white voice, but go ahead.
Well, all right then.
But I get that a lot. I get that a lot because, like, it's just no different than, like, your preference. Like, a lot of times people say I talk, like, white. I feel like I talk proper. But as far as, like, my preference, I don't have a preference. It's like whoever I love, that's who I love. So, like, I get a lot of criticism because I'm like, chocolate. So, like, sometimes, like, when I'm dating white men, I get, like, dirty looks from my own people and stuff like that. But, like, they don't even mind that I'm that dark. It's just, like, I think we should all, we all have our own preference. Don't get me wrong. But it's, like, when we're with our preference, why do we have to get those dirty looks? Or is it just because I'm black, like, chocolate, and I'm with a white guy? Like, it's just a lot to take in, because like I said, I like who I like, and I don't have a preference, so I don't discriminate. But it's just like, it depends on who you're with, and you get, like, it's almost like you get, like, hate directed towards you. If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say it's probably not because you're chocolate, because I have dated many a white man in my day, and I still got dirty looks, and I got black men asking me if I was being held hostage, if I was okay. You okay, girl? What black man did you wrong? And I'm like, no one, I'm fine. That's cool. Now, some people are just ignorant. Like, you just ignore them.
You've been kind of quiet, bro. What do you think?
Yeah.
I'm just listening, 'cause this is funny.
He's just laughing at us. That's nice.
Well,
everybody has a personal perspective that they're speaking from, and then everyone has a general perspective that they're speaking from, and those perspectives are different.
they are.
Do in your private life, and what you do in your private bedroom affairs is your business, and your preferences are your preferences. But I also think that people are not keeping it real. People are not.
I do think people aren't keeping it real, especially people who say they don't have preferences.
Yeah.
It's a lie.
I've dated like
Everybody has a
every
preference.
dudes in like
Everybody has a
every
preference.
spectrum.
Everybody.
I don't know. If you fine, you fine. You just have to like healthy food and don't like be mad at me when I cook grilled
that's
chicken.
how I feel.
That's how I feel.
I really don't have a preference. It's like, if I'm attracted to you, then I'm attracted to you. And I literally have dated just about every guy on the planet, from wherever. But I just don't like the hate that I get when I'm with a white man, because I feel like it's because of my complexion, because I'm so dark.
I don't
No,
think it's
no,
your
no,
complexion.
no.
I think it's because you are a black
It's
woman
interracial,
with a white
yeah.
man, because it is interracial.
Yeah.
And once again, getting
Okay.
back to, even though darker skinned people can't be colorist, darker skinned people can still be ignorant.
Yeah.
And I have a problem with you. Like, there is this superiority complex amongst darker people, amongst natural people, amongst healthy people. And I've been it all. I've had dreadlocks, I've had afro, I have no hair right now, I've had weave down to my ass, and I reserve the right to do whatever I want at any time that I want to do it. But I've always been conscious.
Yeah.
It's been times when I've had a weave and people coming up to me, giving me a lecture about self-esteem and self-love. And I'm like, you have no idea who you're talking to. It's the assumption that bothers me. And it's like, you have the audacity to tell me how I feel about myself and to tell me what I need to do. It's my head, it's my hair, it's my body. I have autonomy over my thoughts. I have autonomy over my actions. I have autonomy over my body. I can do what I want.
Right.
So are you saying, April, that you have never, so within your own autonomy, are you completely exempt from having any type of influence by music, by book, by television, by
media, culture?
We are all products of our environment.
Okay.
And we all react differently to different stimuli, but at the same time, the more you know and the more you understand. And again, as a person that studies this, as a person that studies history, as a person that studies sociology, as a person that studies culture, I understand what I'm looking at. I understand what I'm consuming. I understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I do self-checks all the time. I check myself and it's like, okay, you're doing this, but why are you doing this? Why do you feel this way? Why are you, so I check myself all the time. But I think that judgmental aspect on individual levels needs to fall back. Like, yes, there are social issues that we need to address. Yes, there are general trends that make people raise their brow. But when it comes down to looking at individuals and telling them what they need to be doing, who the fuck are you? Who are you? You don't know this person. You don't know why they're doing what they're doing. And it's like, I'm the blackest black person in life, but I can't tell somebody else they not black enough or they not doing what they supposed to be doing, you know?
Yeah. But I think we got a generation of people, younger people, I'm gonna say, maybe even more people, that tend to gravitate towards what social media say. So if social media say it, if Black Twitter say it, it's true. It's God.
Have like FOMO about Black Twitter.
Yeah. So and the fact that has taken such a precedence, and you have people who will literally take what's on the internet for Bible and then just start spreading it. It's just that contributes to that. That contributes to our thought process. It contributes to our ideology. It contributes to the things that we hate. It contributes to the things that we love. Yeah. But then again, what is it rooted in? You don't know. All you know is that Black Twitter said it.
And everything ain't rooted in slavery.
Some people are so rooted in like their own preference that they think that everyone else has to have their preference.
Yeah.
As I said, don't get it twisted. You like it. I love it, baby, all the time.
Right.
Because if that's how you live in your life and that's how you doing you and that's how you feel comfortable and that's how you love yourself, then I am more than happy for you.
Right.
Just do it back to me.
To influence society that you're giving it power. The internet actually reprogrammed a lot of negative thinking that Black people have about themselves and about their history and about why they are the way that they are. Half the things that I've learned about Blackness are new information that I got from the internet. I didn't get it in high school. I didn't get it in middle school. I didn't get it in college because that information is being held back. And it stops us from growing in ways that are more inclusive. I'm not going to say it wasn't around when the black test was invented. The internet wasn't around when field niggas had to do work and house niggas had to do work.
Right.
You can't blame the internet on the societal view. The internet helping to reprogram.
It's a combination. Go ahead.
It's just that group thing.
Go ahead.
The internet wasn't around when Dace's mom was making her dating choices. What?
Go ahead, Bo.
See, I think for me, right, I always played it safe, and I did the same things over and over and over and over again. I'm so old-fashioned. I kind of just stick with what works. And I was raised that way. Like I was raised around people that did the same exact thing every single day.
You from a small town too. You from Norfolk.
Yeah. But I was always that cat that I just rock Polo, Levi's, Wallabies, and everybody knew Bo liked chocolate bras. They'd be like, yeah, Bo like chocolate girl. And that was just kind of like my box forever and ever. And, it didn't necessarily work out in my favor.
You keep saying that.
Once I started being more open-minded to different things, when I was young and, that hustler cat, I thought dudes wearing suits were squares. I would look at a cat wearing a suit and be like, oh, square ass nigga.
And so, look at you now.
And look at me now. Once I got older and I started making it up and doing different things, carrying myself differently, and just thinking outside the box, I started getting different results. And I'm not as closed-minded as I was as far as women are concerned. I don't have a preference anymore. So that's just not who I am anymore. But I was deeply rooted in preference for 3/4 of my life. Mm-hmm. Probably more than that.
And the thing is, like, preference isn't like, okay, that's all I am going to date. Yeah. Preference is who my eyes, like, if there's a room full of multicolored men, my eyes are going to go towards what I like. You know what I'm saying? Now, mm-hmm. based on the conversation, based mm-hmm. on the energy, based on how things transpire through the night, mm-hmm. depends on who will get my number. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like, oh, it's a chocolate man, let me just jump on him. No, it's not like that. But I try my very best to be as honest with myself as possible. Yeah. And as far as what my eyes gravitate towards, as far as when someone says the word beauty, mm-hmm. the first thing that pops up in my mind is black, is dark. And it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate the spectrum of beauty. Because Lord knows there are some beautiful Italian men out there. There are some beautiful others. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But what I like, initially, off the bat, is what I like. Now, just because that's what I like doesn't mean I'm just going to go for it. Like, no, you have to stimulate me intellectually. You have to earn the privilege to be with me. Right. But what I'm initially attracted to, why you laughing, bro?
You know what's hilarious? Because the only women that I find attractive are dark skinned also. Because Charlize Theron and Scarlett Johansson are both South African. So they niggas too. Okay,
so I do want to incorporate the audience comments just a little bit, and I have several devices here, so I'm a little confused, feel like I got ADD. But we are on a Facebook watch party, and my brother BJ Alexander, you may know him from 92Q, 93.9 KYS. He checked in and he said, "This is dope." Thank you, BJ. Also, we got Deron Peaks. He says, great topic and a great panel. So shout out to my panel. Everybody is freaking amazing. And John Jackson says, I like a big butt and a smile. I bet you do. Fakisha Guy checked in and she said, I get what he's saying though. So she's probably talking about you, CJ. She says, because there are some black guys out here that eventually go to white women. Their preference was always light skin when dealing with black women. Mm-hmm. Alrighty.
And I think that's the point that Ken told me. Like, where do you draw the line? Mm-hmm. Like, at what point do you say, this is my preference, this is my preferred dating type? Oh, you know what? I'm just done with white girls, period. I'm just going to go to white girls because I'm happy here anyway.
Yeah, but that's the thing that we said before about, like, what was your personal influence in your life? If you're a dark-skinned man and you grew up with nary a light-skinned woman around you, why do you prefer light-skinned women? Like, why are you trying to talk to me? Your mama dark-skinned, your whole family dark-skinned. Like, I don't understand, like, what you're here for. Right. And usually those are the ones who say, girl, You gonna give me them good head, baby.
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
We're done.
And it's the guys that always date racially ambiguous women that have like a ping of black, so they can say, "Oh well, she's not white." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and it's like,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
but bro, you really want a white girl.
yeah.
So if that's what you want, go ahead and do what you do.
But that's
and walk
even
them
still-
dogs. You know what I'm saying? Don't
Yeah,
nobody
but
care.
That's still that
Yeah.
Don't nobody
proximity to
care.
whiteness.
It's the
How
proximity.
far are you gonna get there?
Yes.
Like, even if they're dating a non-black woman, like I know black men who say they're like, well, you know, I don't date white women, but I don't prefer
But
black
they love
women. I want to
Latinas.
date,
They love Latinas,
yeah.
bro.
women POC, and I'm like, you might as well just mosey on over because you already there. Like, just do it.
Ever noticed on TV and in movies that it's always the dark skinned dad, it's the light skinned mom, and the beige?
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, there's never any deviation from that very specific height. And so I think it was maybe that is helping to further that normalization of that particular color segment in our society.
All right, so I'm going to go a little to YouTube because I do want to try to incorporate as many of our different platforms as possible. Rainy Puds checked in and she said, "This is getting spicy. I like it."
That's probably when you were on your monologue.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, that's enough from the comments because now I'm getting all confused. It's stuff all over the place. And how much time we got? Is that 1 minute? We got 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. Let's talk about solutions and something Angie just said makes me want to get to solutions as far as representation. Does representation matters when it comes to eradicating colorism? Representation as far as media, as far as what you were talking about with television shows that always have the dark-skinned man and the desirable racially ambiguous woman or white woman with the beige child or whatever.
Yeah.
Does representation really matter?
Yeah, because representation is what feeds it. It's what fed it previously, where darker was always or usually excluded. You know, so when you change that narrative, we've seen it over the last couple of years, right? You start having black superheroes. What you get kids that want to be black superheroes, right? Nothing wrong with nothing wrong with
Chadwick Boseman.
right, exactly. Now nothing wrong with Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent, but now he sees himself, right? Now that little girl sees herself, as opposed to not wanting the black doll because it's ugly.
Well,
You know?
like you said, those trends.
Yeah,
When we see
yeah.
the trends, like when
Yeah.
you see the dark-skinned man with the light-skinned woman all the time, like, just stop.
Right.
Like, when you're writing the show, why would you even do that?
Right,
So,
right.
Like, take that shit off the table.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I loved Queen and Slim so much.
Yeah.
Because to me, it was something so powerful about seeing two blackety black, like dark-skinned black people choose each other. Okay,
Yeah.
given the circumstances, whatever, you
Oh,
know.
yeah, right.
But that love scene in the car, that love scene in the car did something to me. Just to see those two black bodies intertwined, and it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I think representation does matter.
It does matter, absolutely.
And I think that's why a lot of people love Insecure, because the main characters in the show are all brown skin, dark skin. That is part of why Insecure is so special. And the light skinned character, which is paid by the CEOs, is the one. And normally in the shows, it's the other way around, where all of the main characters are lighter complected, and then you have the one black friend, or the one, Indian friend, or the one gay friend,
Yes.
or one other. And so when we have more people in control of the media, we will have better representation. And so thank you so much for having me on the show.
Do you think we can eradicate colorism, or is it just a reality? It's a harsh reality.
It's like
that we gotta live with.
It's like being an alcoholic. You gotta admit you have a problem first
Yeah.
before you can address the problem.
Yeah.
What do you think, Bo? Is it here to
It's
stay?
it's just one of those things that's just not going anywhere. You know, we have to learn how to deal with it, just like we learning with this to deal with this COVID. I mean, it's just like, over in the Middle East, the Arabs and the Jews don't realize they're brothers and sisters. So they're going to fight forever and ever and ever and ever.
Right.
And it's just one of those things you're going to have to accept. You know, I find that the closer my relationship is with God, the easier it is to navigate through anything. I feel good about choices that I make when they're the right choices, and I feel ashamed for a lot of the shit that I do that I know I shouldn't do.
And as far as navigating, like, y'all are just giving me perfect segues. I know we have some parents on the panel. How do you help your child navigate colorism as a parent?
Yeah, I had to. So
Because I can't imagine. I don't have any children.
So my daughter's 11.
Okay.
And since she was about 4, you know, it started with that noticing she had a preference for white dolls because she was seeing, you know, representation, TV, right? Was showing her that white. She's my complexion. Yeah. So for her, it was like seeing on TV that the white dolls is what is getting all the play. Like no one's advertising a black doll, so she goes to the store. She wants white dolls, and when I was like, well, what about this one? No, I want that one. So what I did was I started pretty much showering her with representation, right? Getting her books that talk positive about her hair, getting her dolls that look like her. My wife started, you know, well, we both, we did it together. It wasn't just me.
Right.
I ain't taking the credit, baby. I ain't taking the credit.
I know Kelly like, hold on.
I ain't taking the credit at all, you know? So, but that's what we did, you know? And it's like, but it worked. Representation changed her perspective to be like, you know what? Black is beautiful. I am beautiful. You know, then she started embracing her hair, started embracing her tone, and then wanting black babies now. So she has more of them now than she do white babies. You know, so it matters. It can change. It takes work.
What do you say, Angela?
Well, I have an 11-year-old, and his mother is Nigerian. I am American. He is just as brown and perfect as he can be. So not only does he have strong representation of blackness, he also has a very strong representation of his Nigerian culture.
Awesome.
And so he spends a lot of time with his grandparents. They Yoruba to him. He has some language. He dresses up in traditional wear, holidays, we have celebrations. Never one book with a white protagonist. I only buy him books where the black character is the main character. Right now, he is in a school that has all black teachers, all black students, and all black staff. This is a preference for me. It is a preference for his father. And it has a lot to do with safety for me. Because he's seen as a child, not an issue or a problem or something that needs to be solved. He was in a mixed race school at one point, and it was just not a good situation. And we ended up taking him out of that school because they were trying to push us to get him tested for special ed, which he did not need. This is another, as we talk about a lot, just when it comes to desirability, but another part of it is out of the, when it affects your health, it affects your access to jobs.
Girl.
How you get pulled over, how you get put in the legal system. You know, black women go to the hospital to have babies and they never come out.
They don't believe us when
Right.
we say we have a certain level of pain versus white people who go and get like treated and get painkillers. It's like, oh, they're dark.
Yeah,
they can handle it.
They're strong.
I mean,
And it's really that deep though, you know.
Right.
No.
I'm saying to him that, you know, he's going to be treated by people in this world in a certain way because of his color, but don't worry, your mama got you. You ain't got to worry about that, Tim.
We already know Mama got him. Mama got him, okay?
He doesn't worry, but I hear a lot of friends who have had kids and like that 4 to 5 year old range, when they start getting into a lot of trouble. Ooh, and I think that color is a lot to do.
All right, you guys, my team is shutting down the show. They said you went 20 minutes past your time, and we are wrapping up because we got to get the hell out of here. But I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much, Angela, Nicole, Winfield. Thank you so much, Bo, last name Dacious. Thank you so much to Carlos Avent, and thank you so much to Elle Dennis. Once again, colorism versus preference, and you can still weigh in the comments. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next Tuesday. I don't know what we're going to be talking about, but we'll be here at 8, all right? It's Ego. My name is April Watts. Love you. Good night.